Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson by giving all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Wakar Kadash. All praises and honor is due. Double honor to the apostles, bishops, and elders of great most honorable well, and has taught me this truth. And shalom to the Lord's elect. Okay, the elect of Israel, starting with 144,000. And I typed in on Google who said civilization started with the Greeks, and I was looking into it, so I'm going to read a little bit into it and then we go into the scriptures. The idea that civilization began with the Greeks is a cultural and historical narrative known as the Greek miracle, which was primarily championed by Enlightenment and 19th century European historians. Specific figures popularized this concept. Francis Bacon. That's crazy. The English philosopher famously narrowed the history of human learning and civilization to a strict lineage. One among the Greeks, the second among the Romans, and the last among us, in Western Europe. 19th century European scholars. Historians of this era actively forged a direct intellectual link to Athens to justify the cultural and political dominance of the West. In reality, the Greeks did not invent civilization. They built upon thousands of years of earlier achievements in the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, and Egypt. The Greeks themselves openly acknowledged that they learned mathematics, astronomy, and architecture from the Egyptians. Today, modern historians view ancient Greece not as the beginning of all civilization, but as a crucial foundation of Western philosophy, literature, and democracy. Now, what's interesting is, when you go to the scriptures, right, we're going to read it in First Maccabees, the first chapter. The Greeks, when they came into power, you had Alexander, the Greek, and he was going around and conquering what the empire that was ruling before that, which was the Persian Empire. And he was an Edomite, okay? Which in the scriptures, when you read about the Edomites, which we're going to get a couple of scriptures on that, the Edomites are the wicked in the Bible, okay? They're the devil that the scripture speaks of. That's the nation that is actually known as the wicked, okay? Amongst the heathen nations, right? All the different nations outside of Israel, the heathen nations, the number one heathen is Esau, okay? The Edomites. He actually is known as the wicked. The other nations, they ain't got that specific title. Okay, he actually is known as the wicked that the Bible speaks of. Okay, the devil the Bible speaks of. Okay, now it says, let's read this. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, which is funny, this the Maccabees is in the Apocrypha, and they tried to keep this book hidden, okay? And it's funny because historically it names names, right? It says, who came out of the land of Chetim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. We just mentioned it, the Medo-Persian Empire. That he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And that's what happens when you rule over different nations, they become tributaries. Okay? In the kingdom, after these heathen nations serve 1,000 years of hardcore slavery, they're going to be like tributaries unto us. Okay? And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honourable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Okay, you had these different generals. Okay, you had Ptolemy, you had Seleucus, Cassander, and Lacenaeus. All right, and out of them two, you had, out of the four that I've just mentioned, the Seleucus line, which out of that came out the wicked root, the Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, you put hell on our people. And you also had the Ptolemies in Egypt. Okay, and Ptolemy Soter, and you had the Syrian wars. They had like a back and forth, and that's in the scriptures too. Okay, so a bit of history there. Now, one key thing to note, which is going to explain it in this ninth verse we're going to read. All right, is a key thing because supposedly according to Francis Bacon. Okay, just that's crazy that his name's that, right? Brothers be making jokes about Baconites. He said that Greek, Roman, and then Western Europe, which is funny because the Greeks, okay, the Romans, and then now the people that are ruling now, okay, they're all the Edomites. Because during the Renaissance era in Western Europe and all that, in the Europe and that the whole Renaissance happening, that was Esau coming back up into power and putting down the Israelite rulers in Europe, okay, and basically taking over. And that's all part of prophecy, okay. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. We've went into that a little bit in the places. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. So hold on a second. You've had different rulers before, but the scriptures actually said when they came into power, right, the Edomites, evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay. Now, why is that? Let's quickly just jump to Malachi. Right, 1:4. It says, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. So they're actually the wicked. Okay. So when they came back into power, that is why wickedness was multiplied upon the earth. Okay. Because they are the wicked. So was it civilization? No, they all that information anyway, like by their own admission, they got that. Okay, they already had that from ancient civilizations. Now I mentioned the Fertile Crescent. Okay, you already had, knowledge. Okay, in these ancient kingdoms. Let's keep reading in this. And they came out, verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been at hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So you had those of our people that went and forsake their laws and forsake their ways as Israelites, and made agreements with the with the enemy, essentially. Okay. And what do you go into that called? That's called Hellenization, different things that we were going through. Okay, under Antiochus. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward hearing that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So they actually got permission, man. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, which is gymnos, and you still have that to this day. Okay, meaning naked. So, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. And that's the same thing today. You got those of our people who are siding with Esau, okay, and they remain in that Greek state of mind, which we were all in that state of mind at one point, but we came into the truth. We know who we are, right? Now the scriptures say. Now see if I can find it. Amos chapter 3. No, that's not the one I wanted actually. Bear with me. I'll just read this one. The one I'm going to quote the one that I was thinking of. This is Amos chapter 3 verse 3 says, can two walk together except they be agreed? Okay, now if you are walking with Esau, okay, then we can't agree with you. Okay, you ain't in this truth. Now, the scripture that I was thinking about, I'm roughly paraphrase it, is though hand join in hand, surely the wicked shall not go unpunished. Okay, so although you are joining hand in hand with the wicked, and ultimately the ultimate action of doing that, by the way, is taking the mark of the beast. Okay, you're making that agreement with him, and that's it. You want to be a perpetual slave to Esau. You know, that's why that's such an important prophecy. Okay, and that's going to be that test, man, on whom you serve. All right, and at the end of the day, they said that surely the wicked shall not go unpunished. So those of our people that side with Esau, they're going to get punished. Okay, they're going to get punished along with Esau. They're going to get that judgment. All right, so hey, you know, scriptures say Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. That's 2 Kings 6 and 9. So we're in a time now where, you know, again, the same people are ruling. Wickedness have been multiplied upon the earth. Okay, and you know, we're almost out of this place. Okay, but we're just being this the final test is coming. The mark of the beast, the microchip implant. Right? It says 2 Ezra 15 verse 5. It says, well, actually I'll start it from 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. So that's what we're doing. I'm prophesying right now. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Right? Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Incredulity means lack of no faith. Okay? For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So those are people that don't want to hear it, they're going to die in that. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. So, again, okay, the wicked are in rulership, and those of our people that side with that, they're gonna have to die with the wicked, man. They're gonna have to get punished for the wicked. Okay, due to their unfaithfulness. But the ones that are going to make it through are the elect. They ain't going to be able to be deceived by the devil, because it says that, you know, they can't be deceived in the scriptures in Matthew. And that's going to lead on to salvation, man. Deliverance from this wicked kingdom by way of so-called UFOs, chariots, as it says in the scriptures. So, hey, you know, just a quick lesson on my mind. And Lord, when it's been edifying, with that, man, I'm going to say shalom. Shalom to the Lord's elect.